Hello everyone, how's it going? In this video, we're going to cover the stock COSMOS Health, trading under the ticker symbol COSM. The market has been very volatile recently, with many equities having huge swings up or down, and many people are interested in the stock because of the short squeeze potentials. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the stock from a technical and fundamental perspectives and determine what would be a recommended approach with COSMOS Health. So before we begin, I'd like to make a brief disclaimer. My videos cover my opinions on the current events and what's likely going to happen. They're not investment advice and should be watched for entertainment purposes. No one can predict the future with certainty, and we can only provide our best guesses of what might happen based on what we have on hand. My videos are prepared either immediately before the uploading or a few days before they were released on YouTube. Some of them might no longer correspond to the latest price actions, and nevertheless, they would still be relevant to analyze the subsequent price tendencies and improve the decision making. Also, my videos aim to cover the securities as broadly as possible, and if applicable, by covering the fundamentals and technical aspects. In addition to the price actions and the latest news, we're also going to take a look at the long-term tendencies, the shareholder composition, the fundamentals, and other market behaviors, as they all affect the decisions regarding if we should buy a security, how many shares should be bought, and whether it should be bought at the current price level. So with all that being said, let's get into today's topic. COSMOS Health is an international healthcare group based in Chicago, selling nutraceuticals with two product lines, Sky Premium Life and Mediterranean. It also commercializes generic medications. The company has presence in the United Kingdom and the continental Europe through distribution partners. So overall, the company itself has commercial presence on two different continents and also some contacts in the Middle East and Asia. The company has an emphasis on nutraceutical research, development, and commercialization, given the low-risk profiles and clear regulations in that area. It's also worth mentioning that the management believes that the stock now has solvency issues, putting its going concerns into doubt. The management mentioned that due to the recurring losses, there might be eventually doubts or uncertainties regarding whether the business can continue its operations. So they believe that there can be a few solutions that should be considered, including issuing more debt, diluting the shareholders, or restructuring the debts. In other words, reducing what's going out and increasing what's coming in. So ultimately, the company has chosen the road of selling the equity, as it seems, taking advantage of the renewed interest that retail investors have in COSMOS Health due to the expected short squeeze and the price increase that soon followed. So if we look at the short-term price action, COSMOS share price increased slightly in today's trading session at around $4.47, and the stock has been going down by about 33% over the past 5 days and down by 70% over the past month. The price action of COSMOS is likely dependent on the retail demand and interest in the anticipation of a short squeeze, assuming that there will still be a large short position in the weeks and months to come. This would be a good occasion to reiterate the fact that COSMOS is not a stock that people should invest into, but rather to trade the swings and the anticipated spikes in volatility. So it goes without saying that it's not a trade for everyone, but there would be handsome returns potentially as a result of this trade. Now, if we look at the long-term tendencies, it has been plagued by poor results, as well as piling up, short orders, causing the price to plummet for a period of time. For the period between August and November 2022, the stock price declined by more than 83% before it eventually recovered. Over the past few years, it has regularly been trading between high 10s and low 3 digits. Of course, if we only look at the whole situation from a technical perspective, it seems like this is a historical opportunity to buy, waiting for a recovery. I believe that we're unlikely to see the stock getting back to these highs, as the market and the company has evolved from how they were previously. With that being said, we should be able to see some significant recovery nonetheless due to short squeezes if they were to occur. Now, when we look at a company from from their financial statements, basically, they can tell us some key information. When we look at the company's profitability, things have been stagnant, as both the revenue and gross margins have been having a hard time growing, while the operating expenses have been hovering between $2 to $3 million. What this means is that Cosmos Health is popular with shareholders, but people are obviously looking for potentials beyond the fundamental, if we assume that things will remain as they are right now. Now, if we have to find one good news in the financial statements, is that its liabilities seem to have been under control, between $40 to $45 million, with a peak in the Q4 of 2021 at $51 million. Now, what this means is that the company is trying its best to keep things afloat. Another thing that we can see, though, is that the company's assets seem to be entirely financed by debts, or almost entirely financed by debts, with a relatively small portion of its operations financed by equity. So what this means is that, Cosmos is probably going to have a significant chunk of obligatory cash outflows, and if they don't comply, the company could go bankrupt and liquidated, with the equity shareholders being given whatever that's left after paying back the creditors, if anything is left by then. The cash situation for Cosmos is also negative, with most of its inflows, actually pretty much all of its inflows, coming from issuance of new debts. This also confirms the remarks earlier regarding debt versus equity financing, as well as obligatory cash outflows. Overall, the situation is not looking good, which might be the reason why it has a large short position placed against it. This would reinforce my feeling that Cosmos Health is good for trading, not really for investment under the current conditions. The low cash levels would also suggest that the company may have to go through another round of stock dilutions or something like that. Now, let's also take a look at the shareholder composition of Cosmos. According to Fintel, there seems to be no institutional shareholder owing Cosmos Holdings, only retail traders. And if this were true, then we would be looking at a stock that is obviously fit for short-term swings. The uncertainty of the future would mean that the short-term outlook of the stock could be very volatile, upward but also otherwise. In fact, the appeal, if any, for Cosmos seems to be the potential for a short squeeze. Short squeezes are what shareholders hope to achieve in piling in a stock that is massively shorted, with or without a good reason, to force short sellers to redeem their positions. They're often compelled to do so because, as long as those positions remain open, they have to pay financing fees to brokers, and to have to assume the risk of infinite loss, since the potential loss is from their entry point and infinitely high. So, in the case of Cosmos, more than 60% of the volume goes to shorting the stock, and it takes around 1.3 days to cover. This would mean that the shares could skyrocket because, if the fundamentals have improved, the prospects have changed, or that the demand for the stock simply increased for no fundamental reasons. This may force the short sellers to redeem their positions. So overall, I believe that the Cosmos share price has a significant possibility to squeeze, at least for a moment. Now, Cosmos would be good for people who are comfortable with trading small caps in uncertain situations, along with possible short squeezes. Given that there have already been a takeoff recently, it might take some time before the bulls decide to come back. I would recommend to buy in Cosmos gradually over the next month or so and to control the overall exposure below 1% of your portfolio's capital.